All right, we are good to go, Dale.
Hey, everybody, it's Dale Jr. here for the Ask Junior portion of the podcast, the Dale Jr. Download. We're sitting here at the table, recording it now, and this is brought to you by Xfinity, a proud premier partner of NASCAR. I'm a customer and enjoy the service. So people think that we probably get our Xfinity internet for free, but I pay for my Xfinity internet, and I'm happy with it. So, yeah, we got some questions that you guys have sent in to @Xfinity Racing on Twitter. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's show with Josh Berry, and having Josh as part of the Ask Junior segment was a lot of fun for me. And we got some things coming down the pipe with the podcast that you guys are going to love. There is one guest that I am so excited about. But we're excited about today's guest as well. Brandon Marshall, NFL wide receiver, comes onto the show. He has a podcast he does with some buddies called I'm Athlete, and I'm going to do that. And he's come in here today to do our podcast as well. I'm also going to take him around the racetrack at Charlotte Motor Speedway to give him an experience, of what it sort of is like inside a race car. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. And we're going to have a great conversation, but you got some questions. Leah's going to help get those out here so we can get the answers.
Our first question coming from Eddie Wagner. What needs to be done to bring back the excitement and difficulty of old Richmond?
I'm telling you, man, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. I've said this for, the funny thing, I was watching the race, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about the action on the track, or the lack of it, or compared to the past and what we've seen there in years past. And I Googled, or I didn't Google, but I went on Twitter and I searched my username and the word sealer to see how many times I have said on Twitter or commented on Twitter about sealing Richmond. And it was a good amount. It was what I expected to see. But I've asked them about sealing that track again. They used to put sealer on it years ago, a long time ago. I think the last time they did was around 2004. But what the sealer does is, you've seen an asphalt sealer driving around town, or maybe you sealed your driveway. When it gets water on top of it, it's really slick. But it's got this kind of sticky kind of texture to it, and it's kind of maybe it's similar in a way to the PJ1 and how when you race on it and you get it hot, the surface gets hot, and you get tire rubber sort of mixed into it, it kind of improves the grip. The cars go faster, and but the problem with it is it does wear off or wear away, and that's when it gets really, really good. So if they sealed Richmond completely, the track would look a lot darker, and the first race on it would be very treacherous. The first laps on that sealer would be a handful. If you look back at articles written when the track was sealed in the 90s and early 2000s, the drivers complained about how treacherous the racetrack was on a new sealer. But once they get laps or a good day of practicing or so forth on the sealer and get it sort of it breaks it in, if you will, the track gets better, gets more comfortable, the drivers get more comfortable. But eventually, over years, over many, many races, that sealer wears away. So if the guys are running right on the bottom of the racetrack, they will eventually use that sealer up, and they'll have to go up the racetrack with the right side tires to find more sealer. And you just keep doing that over the period of time. You go higher and higher and higher. Race after race after race, you're going further and further up the track, chasing that sealer, kind of like a cushion at a dirt track to find speed and grip, until you're way up the track, and while that groove's fast, the bottom's still competitive in a way for a guy to make a pass. It just really makes the track really dynamic. And and it adds multiple grooves. Where right now, you can pin a guy down if you're on the top and beat him, but the bottom line is really where everybody wants to be. So the problem is I've asked Richmond about sealing the track, and they're afraid that it really takes a lot of years off of the life of the surface, and it could actually end up breaking the surface apart. The forces and the improved grip will increase the forces and pull and tug on that asphalt as the cars go around the corner, and they're afraid that it will break that surface apart, and eventually they'll end up having to repave the track years before they would have hoped. So that's the fear in doing it, I think. Aside from the fact that the drivers are really going to complain very loudly during that first experience of using the track with sealer on it. So there's also the idea that maybe today's tire, with the chemicals and ingredients that it takes to make, won't work well. Won't work well with the sealer, as opposed to what they used to make tires with different chemicals and compounds and stuff years ago. How would today's tire react to the sealer? I'm not certain. It might be even more treacherous than ever, which is not a bad thing if you're watching a race. You want it to be treacherous. You want it to be dangerous. The louder the drivers are complaining, usually that means it's more entertaining to watch. If it's easier or appears easier, then it's less exciting. So I don't know. I can understand, and I'm going long here on this, I know, but I can understand if I was the Richmond guy, if I on the track, I'd be pretty nervous to pull the trigger and get that sealer on there. I'd be nervous because there's so many what ifs and risks. But it's easy for me to sit here in this chair and say, seal it. Let's seal it. Put that sealer down. Let's go, because it needs something. And it don't need PJ1. We don't need to spray that on everything.
Our next question coming from Josh Seda. Do you think it's possible to have 16 or more winners in the regular season based on how the first 9 races have gone?
We debate that as well. Me and my booth mates at NBC, Jeff Burton and Letart, and a lot of the consensus is that it's not going to happen. It would take a few miracles or a wild card. It'd take more than a Michael McDowell at Daytona. It'd take several of those to make that happen. But we get close. We get really close every year, but I think there's just so many guys in the playoffs, 16 drivers, that you're never really going to have that many winners in one season. And we got to expect at some point, Denny, Harvick, Chase, those guys, I mean, we're going to these road courses where you're going to have guys starting to get those multiple wins. We're going to have, even though that, Denny and Harvick, those guys haven't got the wins now, I still feel like they're a 4, 5, 6 win team, even with just this much left in the season. So with that, if that happens, a couple teams like that get on a run, you're definitely not going to have that, more than 16 winners.
Our next question coming from Higgy. In all of your ride-alongs, who freaked out about the speed the most? Does anyone stand out in the ride-alongs that you've done?
Kelly, we went to Bristol. We got to do the Dale Jr. Foundation ride-alongs at Bristol. Excuse me. We've been doing the ride-alongs for a long time, and we usually do them at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and they're pretty fun there. But at Bristol, we did it for the first time, and it was a really amazing experience. And I think probably for the person riding along, it was as profound or as hardcore as you could probably make that for somebody. And a lot of people that go into it not knowing what's going to happen, it's over before they really have a chance to ask you to stop or slow down or freak out, right? My sister, having had some driving experience, I think she kind of had an idea of what this might be like, and she got to that point much quicker of, hey, this is fast enough. I don't want this anymore. So it was she'll disagree. She might say, no, I was saying go faster. But I felt like that she really was surprised, I guess, by what that experience was like riding in a car at Bristol, because it's unlike any other racetrack. So she's the one that I probably comes to mind. But that was also the most recent one. But we go to Charlotte, and you can go. So at Charlotte, I can run 170, but the cars are running much faster than that. And so I feel like we're only getting about 3/4 of the experience. We go to Bristol, we ran that car. I was like I was in a second off of like pole speed or hot laps in practice. The laps that we were running, that's about what they run on old tires at Bristol. And so in my mind, I felt like we were getting a much more similar experience than what the Cup guys are getting there.
Next question coming from Alex Martinez. Do you agree with Bubba's suggestion that an F1 race in Miami should be used as a lead-in for a Cup Series race at Homestead in the same day?
Yeah, it's asking a lot of people because Homestead's a bit farther. It's like an hour drive. And, man, when I go to a race or a sporting event of any kind, when it's over, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. Especially like a race weekend is an experience. People come a day or two ahead of time. They're camping and they're doing whatever. And I don't know if you want to split that up. What do you think, Mike?
I like him thinking outside of the box, but I don't think it's a very likely thing to ever happen. I mean, just the logistic, just the traffic, just all that. That's asking a lot for one day.
I do. Yeah. I agree. It's a very, robust idea, and you want to make as big a splash as you can make. But I doubt that F1 would want to share their event with anything else happening in the region, especially that first one. But and NASCAR's not going to want to play second fiddle or be the closing act, or I don't know. It'd be tough to do. I don't see how it ever happen.
Our next question coming from Dale Sohn. My local track, Western Speedway in Canada, will soon be lost. We've only got 2 more seasons. Any suggestions on things people miss when they are preserving memories of a track? I plan on taking lots of pictures, but looking for other suggestions.
Yeah, pictures. I don't know, man. We've done Lost Speedway should give us the answer to that, but it's been I'll tell you this, like the physical evidence of these tracks, if there's any way possible that you can acquire something that would remind you of that track, some kind of keepsake or something, no matter what it is, those things are kind of important. It might be something that really doesn't even make sense now, but 20 years from now, that piece or that item is going to be a big deal to you or somebody that has some history there. So a great example of doing that the wrong way is I used to race late models in the 90s, and we'd bang up a door or tear up a fender and throw it out behind the shop and put another one on the car. And then I got 20 years down the road in my career, and I'd die to have any of that sheet metal. And I've worked hard to find whatever's out there, but I mean, there was piles of sheet metal and stuff like that left laying behind shops and in the back room that I'd love to have my hands on, and it doesn't exist anymore. So that evidence or that physical piece of that racetrack or a guardrail or a billboard, whatever that you can acquire during the disassemble of the track is something that you might really appreciate hanging on to.
Our next question coming from Alan Harkleroad. Many races were broadcast virtually last season. Which track are you looking forward to calling races at in person again? Or is there anything about calling them from the virtual booth that you'll miss?
Nothing about that I'll miss, man. I'm telling you. It was nice just to drive down the street to Charlotte and go to work. I ain't gonna lie, but I did miss traveling. I just miss, I missed being at the track because the energy from the race itself or the fans in the grandstands, all that stuff really improves your ability to broadcast the race. You feel that energy and it comes out in your voice. So I'm looking forward to that. I was just on the phone with Jeff Burton and Rick Allen the other day. Just talked to Jeff yesterday about us traveling together, being able to talk. So what I won't have is the practice, the qualifying. That's so important as a broadcaster because it helps set up the stories for the weekend. Who's fast, who's not fast, who had trouble in practice, who was great in practice. It sort of helps you shape how you think you feel about the race, right? And what you might talk about during the race. And we don't have that anymore. We come in cold, jump right there, right, just jump in the seat and green flag, go, right? So being able to fly together and travel together is going to be so helpful for us to be able to have a conversation and communicate in person leading into the race and setting up our stories about how we want to open the broadcast and all those things, because we talk about that and make those decisions ourselves. So I'm really looking forward to doing those things again. And I can't wait till we get some sort of form of practice back. Some type, just 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it may be, some warm up or practice, some sort of qualifying procedure. I don't know what that looks like, if it ever comes back, or what it looks like in the future. But I'm hoping there's some component there that helps us, again, like the opening chapter of the weekend. It helps us really understand how this race might go.
Our next question coming from Billy Townsend. David Pearson, Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough. You have to wreck one, pass one, and fight one.
Who are the three again?
David Pearson, Richard Petty, and Cale Yarborough.
Oh my gosh, that's so hard.
I love this. I thought it was so
Wreck
funny.
one. What'd you say? Wreck one?
Wreck one, pass one,
and
okay. Fight one.
Passing one's easy. Oh my gosh. I would probably fight Cale because you'd have your hands full. I can't imagine trying to fight Richard Petty. That would be the weirdest thing ever. So I'd probably fight Cale, and then we'd be like best friends afterwards, in my mind. Wreck David Pearson, because again, I can't imagine wrecking Richard Petty. Right, he's the king. So I'd pass the king, I guess.
All right.
Passing the king.
Passing the king. All right, one more question. This one coming from David Hitchcock. What's your favorite episode of The Office, and who's your favorite character from The Office?
I don't know how you pick a favorite episode. I think my favorite character was probably Jim. That's by far my favorite show. Always, I think it always will be. I used to think that it was like, there's been several shows like that in each decade. Like Cheers was a big deal. Norm coming in and everybody hollering, Norm. I used to watch Cheers all the time. And there's been other shows like that you latch on and you don't stop watching it. But Office came in and just blew them all away, in my opinion. One of my favorite shows ever. Y'all want to know a funny story? We were going to race in Fontana, I guess. We had lined up for me to go to the set.
Oh, this is all coming back to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we were going to go to the set of The Office, and that was going to be great, right? I didn't know if they were going to be filming or doing any work or anybody would be there, but we were going to the set, and that was going to be this kind of cool thing we did as we flew in for the weekend. And on the way there, I chipped a tooth eating something in the plane, and I freaked out, and I called a buddy of mine that lived in L.A., and I was like, hey, you got a dentist? I need to see a dentist
That's
now.
right.
And he's like, yeah. And so we ended up diverting to the dentist instead of the Office set. Oh, man. I'll never forget it.
I forgot that.
I was so disappointed. Never did get to go. Same thing sort of happened with Nirvana. I was a huge Nirvana fan, and I was going to college at Mitchell in Statesville, North Carolina, and we were going to go to the Omni in Atlanta or something like that. We were going to Atlanta, and I think they were playing the Omni. And man, we were going. We had planned to go, and that morning, he's like, I don't want to go, and we didn't go. And then never got a chance to see him again. But anyhow, huge fan of The Office. Thanks for that question. All right, hey, some great questions. Hope you guys have had a great weekend. I sure did. Hope you're going to have a great week. The Dale Jr. Download will be available on all major podcast platforms tonight. Tell your friends. Appreciate you guys supporting our YouTube channel and everything we're doing here at Dirty Mo Media. Door Bumper Clear, those guys will be glad if you listen to their show as well. So take it easy. See y'all next week.